Howdy YouTube, welcome back to the channel where you can find music reviews and all kinds of other nice content. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to get notified when I upload a new video so you never miss one. So for this review that we have tonight, we've got on tap album number 2, Love, Heartbreak, and Everything in Between by country music singer Tenille Arts. So I'll just address something out of the way, get something out of the way just for the sake of context. My taste with modern country music, anything mainstream about country music, even remotely mainstream sounding, my appetite for that is considerably fewer compared to what I used to listen to. I still have, as you know, you might see it saw by my most recent upload, a huge love for Rascal Flatts, and I like other things like Maren Morris and Casey Musgraves, and I love what they and some of the other women in country music are doing today in terms of adding new genres and new ideas and really taking the genre to places it could have gone a long time ago, and you know, but my appetite for the Luke Bryans and the Jason Aldeans of the world is so much fewer than what I would have preferred as a kid. I would have just mindlessly taken whatever you spoon fed me, but now I'm much more cynical about it. So, but Tenille Arts is very promising. I feel like perhaps, and I don't want to be unfair. I don't want to shortchange her efforts on this album by any means, but perhaps maybe something that she has going for her is that she hasn't been tainted by the mainstream yet. Even though there are plenty of mainstream sensibilities, popular elements, some influence from maybe stuff like early Taylor Swift, and that's the thing about Tenille Arts, that her first claim to fame, first time she ever got noticed was when she uploaded a cover of 15 by Taylor Swift to social media, and that's when she first got noticed. So I could see the older Taylor Swift influences there in some places on this album, but other than that, it's very true to her, and she poured her heart and soul into it, and I can tell that that's the case all throughout this album. So the fact that it hasn't been tainted by, it's not the brainchild of some record executives in a smoke-filled back room, that does lend some credence to it, even though it does maintain a lot of those more mainstream sensibilities. So, as suggested by the album title, this does traverse through different moments and sensations in a person's life when discussing the topics of love and stuff like that, whether it's being in a relationship or not being in a relationship, having to face rejection or even hand out rejection, stuff like that. I mean, it just traverses up and down the scales with these kinds of topics, and I think she handles it in a very brilliant way. Songs like Slow It Down have slick electric guitar, subtle with the steel guitar, a bit of grooving mid-tempo stuff there, where in that song Tenille sings of a love that's going too fast, needs to slow it down and not fly off the handles. And you have songs at the end of the album like Wouldn't You Like to Know that are relatively somewhat promiscuous in the narrative, have some bluesy electric guitar, and stuff like that, where she kind of seduces you, for lack of a better word. Like Wouldn't You Like to Know, like if you hook up, maybe you could cultivate a connection, even though it's a lot more, it's more of like a nightclub kind of thing. It's like more like, that's presumably where the setting of the song is, so it's got that sort of, for lack of better words, promiscuous kind of narrative going on. Wild Love has some great neo-traditional country overtones with poppy synths and bass lines, but also great single potential, great steel guitar, early 2000s country music vibes, which for me, I do favor a lot of that stuff. So I mean, it's nice to harken back to that in a fresh and vibrant way. So I mean, that does help the album in a lot of areas. Elsewhere on the album, Tenille Arts doesn't just merely dwell and linger in all the intricacies and complexities of romance. There's also a lot of more meaningful stuff like Call You Names, which is probably my favorite song on this album. A purposeful tribute to her mom and describing the history of her relationship with her mother, from being kind of rebellious when she was younger and not wanting anything to do with her mother, to now embracing her mom and realizing how much her mom means to her. It's a beautiful song. I definitely urge you to check that one out. Obviously, I recommend the entire album just to get that out of the way, but this song in particular, because it definitely shows that there's a lot of there, and I do appreciate the acknowledgement of her mom and where she came from, stuff like that. And there's she poured her heart and soul into this, and there's a lot of life to it, and there's a lot of meat and story behind it. So I definitely appreciate that. Songs like Butterfly Effect are almost strictly pop forays into pop territory, heavy on the synth, but are still reminiscent of like maybe early Taylor Swift or even Casey Musgraves, like what Casey Musgraves did with Golden Hour, stuff like that. Nothing to See Here has some silky guitar work. Another Life is another cut on this album I definitely recommend. Sings of a love that's no more, and Tenille sings her heart out on this track, and it's gut wrenching to listen to. It's super motive, and the lyrics are relatively open ended. So just based off the lyricism and singing of the love that's no more and how she wants it back and she urges for his presence back in her life. Just based off the lyricism, definitely conjures reminders of a song like "Come Wake Me Up" by Rascal Flatts. Or again, it's relatively open ended. There's no mention or even reference to something like death, God forbid. But you could even potentially draw a comparison to like "Just a Dream" by Carrie Underwood, because again, it's relatively open ended in terms of the narrative. But I mean, those comparisons are there, and it's a favorable comparison because this is a really beautiful song. And then "Right Guy, Wrong Time" is a bit of a mid tempo song about handing out rejection, focusing on the imagery to carry the narrative along, basically saying this isn't the right time and place, and maybe in another situation maybe it would work out, but in this case it wouldn't. And then "Everybody Knows Everybody" closes out the album with some fun, grooving, rocking energy. It's Neil like paying homage to her hometown, where you might feel like a nobody and nobody might not know you, but in a small town everybody does know everybody, and it has like harkening back to like in her own mind to like where she came from, remembering where she came from, stuff like that. And again, in the same vein as "Call Your Names," it's one of those things that I can really appreciate. Where, I mean, just to summate my thoughts on this album, and yes, the lighting changed because I was listening to it on Spotify. Just to summate my feelings on this album, like, I think it works because it carries a lot of that poppier modern country sensibility to it, but there's meat and bone. There's meat on the bone, so to speak, and there's teeth to it. And I'm trying to be mealy-mouthed and wordy about it and be articulate. My point is that the reason why I really abhor modern country music is because all anybody knows how to sing about anymore is dirt roads and beer and other garbage. And so obviously when you stray away from that, I think you're definitely more susceptible to carving out and churning out really good material. And that's obviously what Tenille Arts has done here. So I mean she's not obviously she's not like Luke Bryan, all these guys, so she's not going to sing about dirt roads and beer because just by default. So naturally, she would sing about things that are more meaningful, more tangible, more concrete, and it definitely works. And she sings her heart out, and there's high production value for someone not ingratiated into the industry, so to speak. That's not a slight at her at all, by no means. For someone new and upcoming, it definitely is reassuring and great to see such a well-produced album like this. And she has such a sweetness to her tone and inflection to her voice. I got to see her live and meet her, and she stole the show. It was her and a bunch of other up-and-coming country artists, and it was an acoustic show. And she stole the show. I got to meet her afterwards. She's such a sweetheart, and I really hope she further breaks out, reaches further prominence in the game, because she deserves it. She's a hell of a singer, hell of a songwriter. Just and I'd like to know if she produced any of these songs, or at least co-produced them, because there is a lot of fluidity and realness, so to speak, here. Like I can tell that it meant a lot to her to make, and that helps it in that regard. I'm going to give Love, Heartbreak, and Everything in Between a 4.5 out of 5. If I had to think of a criticism, I'd say maybe a couple songs have a bit of a misjointed mid-tempo, but she still makes up for it with her amazing singing voice. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Check this album out and let me know what you think in the comments below. Smack the like button if you enjoyed this video. As I said in the open, subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when I upload a new video. This is Seamus248 signing off. See you next time.